broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. My next guests are a rock band based out of the Fox Cities. Their latest album is called We Came in Peace for All Mankind. I'd like to introduce Justin and Mike to Fox Cities Core. How are you guys doing today?
What's up?
Yo. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for doing this. And this is kind of fun to do this on a Sunday. You guys have been working. You put out an album last year, and it's a really, really good album.
And
thanks. And I want to talk about the album. But first, how does it feel to be doing an interview on a Sunday morning?
I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, this is great.
We've been trying to link up with you for a minute, and
Justin's usually not in town over the weekends, so this works out nice.
Well, let's start off with that as a question. So Justin's been out of town a lot. And has that kind of hindered the band at all, or are you still finding enough time where you can get together and write?
Column A, column B. I think any group, if it's not your full-time job, you always wish that you had the time and the opportunity to get together more often. So we make a point whenever he's in town to carve out a night to do some tracking or whatnot. But it'd be great if you were around more, Justin.
Yeah. Mike and I, it's pretty easy to link up. We work together, so it's easy for us to make that happen. But the drummer, he's full-time drummer. He teaches lessons.
He's always busy with gigs
and kids and a wife and just like boring life stuff.
So does he play in other bands as well?
I don't know if he's
a hired gun.
Yeah.
So he plays out for a bunch of different people.
He plays a lot on the weekends. So,
well, your album We Came in Peace for All Mankind, that was an album that you were working on for a while. It came out last year. How was that process of finally getting the album out? That must have been a good feeling.
It did. It was good to finally get the baby out into the world. And
I think we started recording that in 2019.
Yeah, it was a hot minute.
No, it was 2018 because I made that. So we have a whole thing because I was trying to push it as fast as I could because I wanted it out. We being me, made a banner for our Facebook page that said coming. What was it? Late summer.
It said summer 2019, and I was like, dude, we know how long it takes for anyone to make a record, let alone us. And so I'm like, it's not going to be. Don't date it because then we look dumb if we don't deliver. And so he put late, really small above summer. Like, oh, that'll solve it. Like, no, coming late summer 2019. All right, and then
and then it came out summer 2022.
We blew past that by a few years.
Did you guys have the band name, the Astronautics, yet, or was?
Yeah, we had that. We had that sorted, and it was just. Getting stuff together and actually just making the album happen.
Yeah, we self-recorded it. We put together a makeshift studio at the shop and self-recorded it, which is I think what took so long because we're perfectionists, both of us, and Matt has his things as well. So going through every piece of it, thinking we could change this and we could change that. I think that's the disadvantage of being able to record yourself is that you do have the option to change anything you want at any point, and so it just becomes crazy.
And the iteration of the studio that we had back then was, like he said, was pretty makeshift. Now we have a little bit better of a setup at our same facility, but if you wanted to change something, it was not efficient at all. I mean, there was just so many. If you wanted to change something, now you're, going to get the other cable from that one's over there, and you got to run that under the door, and it was just kind of. A mess.
Did you guys know each other before the band started, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then just decided, hey, we are both into music. Let's start a band. Or how did the band start out of this friendship?
So we met at Christ the Rock Church a long time ago, like over a decade ago, and played with each other there. So we were sort of aware of each other. And then I was just coming off of a tour with an artist named Danon Kane, who's based out of Appleton, very talented guy, and was I myself was like, I want to be in a band again, because I loved doing when I would tour Dana, it was just him on acoustic, me on electric, just a duo thing. Occasionally full band, but mostly just the two of us. So I was looking like it would be really fun to be in a band again. And right then, Justin, who I hadn't talked to in years and years, sent me an email with some demos and was just like, "Hey, I'm in this band with Matt, our drummer, who I knew as well. And what do you think of this stuff? And do you want to jam?" And so then it was like, "Oh, cool, I'll get together." And we played a couple times at your old house here in Appleton, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. Matt and I actually met 2 times at the same band. We had gone to see the same band, once in Chicago, once in Madison, a band called Copeland. At the first one, he and his wife were behind Abigail and I, my wife, and they were talking about having to drive all the way back up to Oshkosh and how terrible that sounded, because it was snowing that night. And thankfully, we had gotten a hotel, but we turned around and started talking to them, because it's weird to be in a place like Chicago, as big as it is, to see a band like that, because they were opening for Paramore that night. So there's, thousands of people there to see this, and the people right behind us in line are from Oshkosh. So we started talking to them. I found out he was a drummer, and that was that. 2 years after that, we met them in Madison, same band, in the same line, waiting to get in. And I finally said, we should probably try something. So I had a couple of songs from the past, and then one that I had just written, which is Fight. And so we started doing that, and we needed to get a lead guitarist that we knew was, solid. It just happened that Matt and I both knew Mike, just through different channels. So,
sidebar: when does a band reach a level of notoriety or success where you no longer have to preface their name with a band called? Because you said a band called Copeland. Which, sure, I've heard of Copeland, but maybe not everyone has heard of Copeland. But then you just said Paramore, like, oh, well, it's Paramore. Like, you're not going to say, oh, I listen to a lot of an artist called Taylor Swift. There was also, I've been listening to this group called The Beatles. They're actually like an older group. Like, you'd never do that. But for smaller bands, like, it's just like natural to say, oh, we're a band called the Astronautics. It's not, you just sort of.
I don't know.
There's like a point where you instinctually don't preface it anymore. I don't know.
It's a good point. That's a good conversation to have. I mean, I've never heard of Copeland. I don't think I have.
Okay.
But I would have known they were a band when you said Copeland.
They're really good if you want to cry a lot. Yeah. It's a very sad band.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more music that makes me sad. Yeah. So you had Fight. What other songs did you have when you met Mike? I mean, Fight.
We had Fight. We had, I think you had Be Still, which is another one that we're going to be playing today. But they were very different in demo form than the way that they ended up being on the album.
Like wild different.
Fight. Well, now, I mean, we're doing an acoustic version of it today, but Fight, the demo that I got was.
You're not supposed to tell him that. Yet.
I'm not supposed to. Oh, I'm not. Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
Sorry, listeners.
It's all good.
Listeners/viewers. But anyways, it was pretty slow and kind of chunking along, and what does it say about me that? First thing I wanted to do is, all right, we're going to make that 50 beats per minute faster, and now it's a punk song.
It's legitimately a thing we talk about, because Matt and I just instinctively write slower and more emotional sounding music, and Mike will come in after that, and he'll be like, you know what this song needs is 80 beats a minute faster.
What if we take that, but we also make it go blah?
Yes.
Yeah.
How's Justin as far as like letting you take a song and add your
it's
touch
totally
to
great.
it?
The creative process feels totally great for our band. We really do work well together, and it always feels, no matter who brought the what idea is being brought to the table, it really does feel collaborative and like a really fun place to create.
Yeah, so. We have very low pressure, I think, because it's not a thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
Or feel like we have to do, right? It's the thing that all of us do. I think I can say that without Matt being here. That just is the most fun for us to do outside of our jobs or daily lives. And Matt drums all the time, and when he comes in with us, it's more of a hang sesh than it is work for him, I think. So
for me too, it was I loved the touring and stuff that I was doing, but it became, I mean, any time that your profession is something that used to be a hobby, it loses something, I think. And so this band and doing this project was sort of a rediscovery for me of playing guitar for fun because I wanted to, and not because well, we're here and it's time. So yeah, that's been great.
And then as far as the album coming out, who designed the A logo?
Oh, that's this guy.
That's all you?
I wish we could afford to pay professional designers.
I think the stuff that you do is great. Like you when we've got to go back and get artwork or a poster, like I think it looks great. I don't see any like, oh well, yeah, we did that in house.
Like I said, I think at heart all of us are perfectionists, and with the art, it's just like, man, I wish that it looks fine, and we needed it, and we didn't have to pay for it. But it's never really what I saw in my brain because I'm just not that good at it.
Well, so the album came out in 2022. You started work on it in 2019, you said?
Oof.
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
The first thing that you put out was a single, the little drummer.
The Big Drummer Boy.
Big Drummer Boy.
Yeah. So this has been a really fun inroad into the band for me. Was the first stuff that we started doing is we just did Christmas tunes, which was great. We did a punked out version of Little Drummer Boy, Rubba Pum Pum, and that was super fun to do.
It was.
And then we've done one. We didn't do one this year, but we've done a Christmas tune every year since. We did "I'll Be Home for Christmas" the next year, and an original tune called "That Time of Year."
Well, that time of year we released this year, which is why I think we didn't spend the time to record another one.
Right. And those will be going on a Christmas 7-inch at some point.
We're vinyl freakoids.
We're those people.
Leads in the next question, which you guys released the album. Is that going to come out on vinyl at any point?
Yeah, I've got a couple of people that are upset with us because
Here's the thing, guys. Vinyl's really freaking expensive. So what we're doing, we had a couple people. So when we were at Ambo doing the album release show, the place was packed, and it was not conducive to. Here's the flow for the merch table, and how it was basically just back to back for the whole night. And so we got a couple of people who pre-ordered the vinyl record that night, but not really a whole bunch because we just there was no room to do anything.
Right.
So for those, what we decided to do is we do want to do a proper vinyl pressing of it at some point. But what we're doing right now for sort of the band ourselves and the OGs who have been the closest fans or biggest fans of the band since the beginning, or who did pre-order it that night, is we're doing an extremely limited edition lathe cut of the vinyl. I think it's going to be only 10 copies that are going to go to us and to just a couple of really special individuals, and then with the hope that at some point we would do a bigger run with all the gatefolds and bells and whistles and all that stuff. But
it is like a really tough time for vinyl. I mean, did you guys even do the process at all of like designing?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you went through all that. We didn't get all. You can't get a product because of backups.
Well, and if you're trying to do something in the States, it's like at least a 12-month lead time, which is just crazy.
You're on to the next project.
Exactly,
already.
exactly. And so it's just wild right now. It's wild.
We did find a place out of. So Justin Perkins did this ridiculously thought out blog post about vinyl pressing companies and mastering companies and all of the different, the places that he trusts to do the things. And we found a place in Spain that does it. Their turnaround was 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4, yeah, that sounds right.
And they were less expensive than some of the places that everybody's familiar with here in the States. So it's just a lot more kind of back and forth.
A lot more back and forth. They do a lot of business in the States, but there is a little bit of a language barrier when you're trying to get into the real minutia of details of stuff, and then you got to deal with with importing and making sure that everything clears customs and everything. So it was going to be a bit of a headache, but it's something that we definitely would like to pick up. But for now, we're doing the lathe cut, and God is my witness, there will be a 7-inch by the holiday season this year as well. But
you mentioned Justin Perkins. He's the one that mastered your album, and he's just a wealth. He's the guy. If you need to get something mastered, he's the guy to go to. And he's got some of the best years that I know of.
Between mastering and just all of the other things that he's done previous to doing the Mystery Room stuff, and it probably drives him nuts, but I text him when I have a question about anything audiophile, because the guy knows anybody who's anybody in the world. And so when we were trying to find someone to mix the record, he's like, oh, I've got a guy. So we reached out to him, and he ended up doing it. It was Nick Rad out of Milwaukee. He was super good to work with. Justin is crazy. His ears are so good.
He's a freak of nature.
Yeah. It's almost frustrating, but because I'm not that good at any one thing, right? And he is so good at what he does.
Well, not only is he good at mastering, but he's been in some really good bands like Yesterday's Kids and the Obsoletes, and we're gonna have Tim Schwager on next week.
Oh, nice.
Who's in the Obsoletes and Yesterday's Kids with Justin. But I'd love to get Justin Perkins on this show too. I'm sure has a lot to say.
That would be a great interview for sure.
But he mastered your stuff, so you knew it was going to be mastered well. Did you send it to somebody to mix, or did you do the mixing?
We did. We sent it to Nick Rad, Milwaukee. Is
he still out of Skies Fall, or is he not there
No,
anymore?
he was sharing a studio with the Wire and Vice guys, I think, which is how Justin knew him well enough to recommend him, I think, is they were both in there at one point together.
The sound, and I'm sure that's a lot of your playing, is really smooth. And are you guys into pedals and tone, textures? Is that something that...
Yeah, I've got a board that I've put together. I'm not and never really have been like a pedal guy, or like I don't want to. I find tremendous value in getting to know my gear really, really well, and you can't do that if you're swapping stuff out every week. So I like to find the stuff that makes the sounds that I need to make, and then just marry it and live with it for a really long time. It does a better job for me of then when I'm in a situation where maybe it's an improvisational situation or it's a studio and I got to come up with something like that. I know my palette, and I know what I can, the sounds that I can pull, and I don't have to guess or hope for the best or whatever. But
short answer is yes.
Sorry.
We don't. I especially do not rely on because I'm playing rhythm. Mostly palm muted rhythm, so I don't need a ton of stuff. But I've got a couple of cool pedals. Actually, because he is so good with Mike is so good with putting the pedal boards together. I said, here's my budget. I just need everything to work right, and you do what you do because you know what the sound's supposed to be.
Sure. Yep, and here's your board.
Yep, that is exactly how it went. It was awesome. So yeah, tone for us is a big thing. Even though we're playing a type of music other than, your stuff really needs the tone that you put out, but mine, I could probably throw any guitar on and it sound similar to what we play.
Just make the amp sound rocking, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the bands that influenced you both? Do you have the same influences, or do you have different influences?
I don't know. We share a common love for Blink-182. I learned my
probably unhealthy. My love of I don't know what it is about them. It's unhealthy.
I taught myself guitar just listening to Enema of the State and just trying to figure out how they shape their chords and the lead lines, and there's a lot of that in our origin, I think.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've ever thought about it like who's influenced. I mean, all the bands that I go back to listen to, one that Mike and I both like is Under Oath. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the style of music, but the way that their music is put together.
It's so good.
It's just so intricate, and the layers inside of it on the records are insane.
I was also a big fan, and still am. My favorite album of all time is the Blue Album by Weezer, and they do some really cool when they're doing their bar chords. They do them differently than anyone else that I've heard. Where if they're doing a bar chord that starts on the A string, they keep this low E string, which creates this really deep, guttural feeling. You can hear it on right away in My Name Is Jonas, just this grr, grr, grr. It's really heavy, and so I started bringing that to my playing really early on, and I think you can still hear some of that in what we track. But.
Yeah.
Do you guys learn anything from each other as far as guitar playing? I'm sure that according to you, Justin is a way better player. Is he ever teaching you Any tricks or anything?
Yeah, I know. I constantly joke about it, but I'm totally serious when I say it. I'm easily, and I got this from Blink-182 of all things. They have a lot of these old videos of them in the studio, and Travis the drummer, he's doing these crazy drum tricks to like they're setting up and getting everything situated, and he's just getting warmed up
On a marching snare, just flipping his sticks around.
Flipping it around. He gets done, and Mark goes, "I can barely play my instrument," and that is me in this band. Okay, because I watch him and Matt do their things, and I'm like, oh, okay. Or I'll start a song, and they're like, okay, it's in this key. He's playing these chords because I play in all open tunings, so it's not easy to identify. I say I'm on fret 7 with this finger pattern.
No joke, though. Funny as that is, this is our secret sauce. I truly believe is that, and I mean this in a good way, Justin doesn't know how to play guitar.
This is true.
He taught himself on these open tunings, so the chord patterns and the structures that he makes, it's just a totally unique approach to the instrument. And so the way we build our sound is Justin, does the lion's share of the songwriting, and so he brings shapes, and Matt and I just sort of study, like, all right, what are you doing, and how can we bring our, technique and stuff around it to build a song, and it's great.
Yeah.
I discourage you from learning how to play your instrument.
Let's talk a little bit about the recording again. I find the recording of albums fascinating.
Sure.
So where you guys recorded was in a shop, right next to a shop. So how did you deal with noise from the shop? Were you recording after hours, or were you doing stuff during the day? If something like just came up, were you rushing to record?
After hours, mostly at night.
Yeah.
And if there's sounds that you don't want in there, you just got a lot of retakes.
Yep, that's right.
And it happened a number of times.
Who forgot to turn off the air conditioning?
Right. Air conditioning, air compressors, something drops. I mean, we were literally doing it inside of a metal fabrication shop. That's where most of the tracking happens.
For those of you who have not done an album, or you're doing one right now, don't do it in a metal fabrication shop.
Certainly not.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of extra sounds that you don't necessarily want in it.
Maybe just do it in like a recording studio.
Right.
That's probably a good idea.
That's solid advice. And then, so the writing process was going on for quite a while. So were you finding yourself also like majorly revamping songs to where you just had to start from the ground up? Because sometimes if you change something just a little bit, it throws the whole song off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did you run into that?
Yeah. Well, the stuff we play live now, we do some of the things so differently than we did when we recorded it, because we didn't spend the time writing. We would write the parts as we were recording them, so we would go back so many times to either re-record or for the live stuff, we're like, okay, we're just going to play it how we play it now, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Then you have to learn it all over.
Yeah, there's definitely that point of like when we have a show coming up and we've got new material. It's like, oh crap, we have to like play it. got to figure out like what parts are we actually going to do, because we right now, and I have no issue with bands that play to tracks. I think that's just fine, but we don't have that set up yet, and so it's like, all right, well, what parts are we going to actually, how are we going to make this work with 4 people?
yeah.
Is that something you're going to eventually do, is play along to some tracks?
Yeah, especially our new stuff. There are some of the old tracks, like Be Still has got a number of layers of guitars that would do something live to that song that we're unable to do without the tracks. I think it sounds like a song live, but adding some of those layers in there, though they're small, I think fills it out harmonically, that so much so that it might be worth it for us to try that. But I think the new songs that we've been writing, I think especially will need some of that, so we're trying to figure out what that looks like as we move forward.
Also, it'd be nice because we have a small lighting rig for our live performances with some stuff that I automated with some software, and so we'd love to have it so that when a song is starting, our drummer can just hit spacebar, and whatever we need to have acoustically in the tracks are there, and then also it runs the light show, so we don't have to. The last couple shows that we've done, we've had people that were basically playing the computer or a light board like an instrument, and having to keep up on it, and they did a great job. But
Yeah.
they're never going to be as good as a computer.
Correct.
And you guys have played a couple times at the Ambassador. Is that sort of home base for the Astronautics?
We were just talking about that because we had done this show during the Mile of Music this last year. We played 2 shows back to back that same night, and as fun as that location is, I think we're done playing there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and Corbin's been amazing to us.
He's
and,
great.
The Ambassador's a great place, great hang, but it's tight.
Yeah,
you're crawling all over each other, and like I said, the selling of merch, it's really hard to have any sort of. It's just nuts to butts the whole time. So.
Yeah, it's hard with. We want to feel like we're a bigger band than we are. And so being in a place that has a cap of something like 90 people, though it feels cool because it's like packed. Yeah. It would be cool to see what happens in a room that can hold 300.
Yeah,
so.
It was definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was rad to be like walking up to get ready to play and seeing like a line outside
down the
block. If capacity is 20 people, now we have 24 people who want to see the show. But,
we've got a question here for you guys. Does the live aspect have an influence on the number of tracks you use recording?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say probably not.
We've never even talked about. I mean, we've talked about how do we play the song live as we're recording, but never. We try not to overdo the sounds when we're recording because we want it to sound like the record when we play it live. So we don't have outright conversations like, "Hey, we shouldn't like add all this stuff or add this or add that," because we won't be able to do it live.
Yeah.
But we are, I think, just without speaking about it, we're thinking about, like, we want this to sound on the record like it will live.
Yeah.
So we're conscious of that. We don't like to add too many things that we cannot do live. We don't add just because we wouldn't naturally do that anyway.
Right.
It's just not the way our brains work, I think.
We don't have, the New York Philharmonic playing an orchestral arrangement in any of the tunes. Not yet, yeah.
Well,
coming 2029.
Stop it.
Well, your live shows too. I mean, you guys put a lot into the live shows, especially the ones you've done at the Ambassador. I mean, you've got a full light setup. Was there a bubble or a foam machine or something going on?
We have cryo, so it's compressed CO2.
We built a rig that shoots snow into the facility that we're in.
It's super fun, and like Justin said, we like to feel like it's cool, it's fun, and we have the opportunity to do it. But so we've got these cryojets, right? And these 2, what are they, 100-pound? Or they're big.
They're 75 or 100-pound tanks.
Yeah, big cryo tanks. And when we're at Ambo, because the ceiling is so low, normally you'd shoot that straight up, and it would be this these towers of cloud. But we shoot them out because it's a low ceiling room and it's a deep room. And there was at the most recent show, which was the album release show. It's perfectly harmless. It's cold, so it cools the room off nicely in the middle of summer. But at the album release show, I think it was at the second set, there was this girl who was standing up on a chair so she could see over the heads of all the people. And right at the start of the show, we hit this cryo hit, and she got blasted directly in the face. With all of this freezing cold tears. She was fine, but
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah. She was up on that curved booth. She was like standing there with her phone and just.
Well, I'd like to see that video.
I will have to find it.
So I was standing, I think, under one or near one during one of the shows, and that stuff was like dripping on me, and I thought, I don't know if this is like bad to get on your skin or.
That's probably fine.
The same stuff they put in soda to make it carbonated. Yeah. It's
okay.
Fine. Yeah.
Let's say, I mean, how long does that take you to set up a show like that?
A long time.
A long time.
4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that's just setting up our stuff. Then, because we set up that whole weekend this year for Corbin, lined up all the bands. They bring all
their gear.
Yeah, they bring all whatever they're bringing in, and, it gets to be a lot. Yeah, we go all out for us because we want to feel like rock stars.
We like it. Yeah, we like it's a labor of love for sure. And I mean, This year we added additional light bars that we flew on the ceilings, and so the lights were coming up and then out over people, and it's fun to do. It was fun. So the week before Well, the month before the show date, we're setting stuff up and practicing stuff and programming things. Yeah, it's fun.
And the turnouts at those shows, like, they were really, really, the place was packed every time you've played there. And like you mentioned, it is kind of a long, narrow walk back there, which makes it, I'm guessing, being a full band playing there, it's also playing tricks on you with the sound. Do you guys use like in-ear monitors or anything to kind of cut back on the echo of
we
a place
don't,
like that?
Maybe one day, but it's you do lose a little bit of the feel when you go to in-ears. They're decidedly a better system. I mean, it makes everything easier, but it creates a fourth wall between you and the crowd, and that is kind of a bummer.
I don't know about you, but I like losing my hearing when we're at shows. If my ears aren't ringing after, it's because it wasn't loud enough. You know,
and I've got industrial strength earplugs in to because I'd like to keep hearing.
Both you and Matt,
Yeah.
you protect your ears pretty well.
We got some. They're these particular. They're called filtered earplugs, so they're molded to our ear canals, and they have filters in them so that it doesn't get when you've got the foam ones in. It sounds pretty good still, and I don't have a headache at the end of the night. But.
So when you're playing so close, like on a stage at the Ambassador, you're right. The drums are like right behind you.
Oh yeah,
right? You
most
can
definitely.
Take a half step back, and you're gonna hit the drums. I mean,
That's right. I have like 2 square feet. Yeah.
The amps are kind of sitting like sometimes you guys use sort of boutique amps, right? And so I mean those are sitting lower. I just don't understand, like the hearing aspect would be pretty rough. At least I think it would be. But
We had JustNet has a Dr. Z that we had on the side of the stage, kind of shooting across the stage, and I have a divided by 13 that I think I ran the cabinet backwards this time.
Did.
Yeah, so I ran that facing against the wall with an attenuator to.
Yeah, we both use attenuators to keep the sound, but lower the volume to keep that stage noise down, knowing that we're on a tiny little stage that really can't support all that stage noise.
So Mile Music this year, you played at the Ambassador and the place was packed. You played with a lot of bands, and like you said, you did 2 sets in a row one of the nights. Was that a good idea in hindsight, doing the 2 shows? I guess you set everything up, so you might as well.
That's what the thought is.
Yeah, and we don't because it is a smaller place. I would hate to have to turn anyone away. Let alone our buddies. Who some of whom got babysitters and made a concerted effort to come up and see us. It would I would hate to have to.
Was one of the
send someone away.
shows better than the others, or were they both about equal?
The second was more fun for me because the nerves were out.
Yeah.
So the second one's like, all right, we did the thing. We're here, and now I can just take a breath and have some fun with it.
Do you guys have any rituals before shows? Do you drink at all during the shows?
I think we have a drink before, maybe.
I
do a shot of
yeah.
whiskey.
I take it. I take it real easy before shows because my fine motor just goes to junk if I'm having drinks, and so I one tops before a show, but actually at not the most recent one, but the first one we did at Ambo, I was super nervous, man. I was just feeling terrible, and a friend of mine who doesn't drink at all. She texts me and she goes, "Dude, have a drink. You look miserable." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And so I think we took like a little shot of whiskey or something and just all right, let's do this.
The only real ritual we have is all 4 of us go out, at least at Ambassador. We go outside, get away from everybody, and just
talk it through.
Yeah. I mean, by the time showtime happens, all of us are comfortable enough with our parts. It's just a matter of not getting freaked out, because I get the butterflies every time we go on. It doesn't matter if we're playing twice in a row or if we haven't played in a year. My guts are turning. Once we get through the first song, then it's game on for me.
Yeah.
But the first one is always like, okay, you already know what you're doing, brain. Just do it.
Well, you guys are very animated too, so I mean, there's lots of jumping around, and it's probably easy in that situation to start playing faster. Like, where all of a sudden a 3-minute song is 2.5 minutes.
Well, we do play to a click, so
okay, well, that helps.
We don't have tracks, but our drummer does play to a click, which keeps us where we need to be, because we would be off like a freight train.
Yeah.
Just.
So playing to that definitely helps because it keeps us in check, and Mike and I are just listening to Matt on the drums, and we're good at following him, so it works.
You guys had a video out that sort of emulated a little bit of the live experience from seeing the Astronautics. It's a lot of lights and it was for a song called
Strangest Things.
Strangest Things.
Yeah.
Did you guys like doing a video? Is that something we're going to see more of
That was
in
a
the future?
blast.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
The only bummer in hindsight is, so we with our lighting rig, we had two systems, and the first was running off of this $40 Amazon light board, and that's how we did the first Ambassador show, and that was the iteration when we shot the video. And then for the second Ambassador show, everything was computerized, and so I had far more control over how the fixtures were behaving. We had more fixtures, and so I wish that we could go back and do it again with the new system, because everything was just so much more wild. And fun fact about the video shoot was we didn't have somebody to run the lights for that shoot. So if you look close, anytime that the lights are doing something, there's only 3 of us in the shot, because one of us is at the light board pushing buttons. And if there's a shot of all 4 of us, the lights are stationary. They're not changing at all. Because none of that
Now
was...
he gave away all the Hollywood secrets.
Yep. Now you know how the sausage is made.
So is that a video you guys did by yourselves, and it sounds like, or did you have help?
No, we had my brother-in-law, Chad Angle. He came in and shot it for us.
Oh, he's a really good
He is good at
He
what
was
he
awesome.
does.
Yeah.
And we cranked it out. I think we were there for maybe 2 hours outside of setup and teardown. And he just got all the things, and it worked. It worked. We didn't give him very much direction. We just said, hey, we're going to play the song a couple of times, get some shots. And then afterwards, I ended up piecing it together, because he said, I don't have time to edit, so I'll shoot it for you and I'll give you the footage, but then you have to go chop it up and put it together, which
you just get so laser focused in those moments, and so I don't think you breathed for 24 hours other than just
yeah. It was the first time doing that. I won't do it again. I'll be paying someone to do it, because I was there's so many clips, and then lining them up so that they're right, and then selecting which ones you want. It's intense to put it all together.
So if you guys do another video, which song would you guys take off the album?
I think we have a song called The Astro that we were considering doing as a follow-up video.
That one's hard because of what it's about. I have this vision of what it should be, and it would be super difficult to do it. There would be a lot of location shooting, a lot of extras, and it's just way more coordination.
And if we can't swing $6,000 for a vinyl pressing right now, we can't swing $60,000 for a video.
For a video, correct.
So
correct. Well, I like the videos.
Write him a check.
Don't cash that for a couple.
We're gonna post date the check.
Do you guys feel that in today's age, as far as a band goes, that you need to be putting out videos and doing the social media stuff on TikTok, Instagram, all that social media stuff?
I don't know, man.
If we don't do.
We're really bad at it.
We're really bad at that, but we're also doing this for fun.
Yeah.
And not for man, we need to do this to eat.
Yeah.
So it's just different. If you absolutely need to engage with your audience that way, if you want to go the distance.
Right.
In, the state of the industry today, but we have lives and wives and jobs and kids and stuff going on, and so we get together when we can, and we do the tracking when we can. We record the tunes and do it how we do it.
We try to post when we do unique stuff, or when we're releasing a new song or whatever it is. But
did a couple Facebook Live things and performances when our former bass player left the band. We did a couple songs with him on Facebook Live, and then we did a show. A full concert during COVID, when bands were doing sort of live stream concerts. We did a show there, which almost didn't happen.
Let's not get into it.
Let's not get into it.
Do you guys feel it's easier, or it was easier, like when Blink 182 started to kind of get noticed, and compared to now, where it seems like the quantity of everything is just out of this world as far as what you're trying to differentiate yourself from?
I would argue that it's much more difficult now to get noticed, because everyone has a professional recording studio and video production device in their pocket, and so anyone can put out a lot of content really, really quickly. And so there's not, I mean, even if you go further back than the Blink era, because that was, there was some internet stuff happening then. But if you go back to, 60s and 70s,
Right.
there just weren't there were the bands that were the bands, and that was sort of it. Same with like television. There were 2 talk shows. Now there's 18 late night talk shows.
Right.
It's just crazy. There's just so much out there.
There's never a time where it feels overwhelming, is there? I mean,
Because, like I said, we keep the pressure very low. Not for us, I don't think it does. I could see easily how it would be if you're really trying to make a go of it. If you're trying to get noticed by a label or booking agents or even a management team, I can't imagine what that fight is like to be able to claw through all of the other bands to get on the top, right?
But also when you're in your late teens, early 20s, the world can be conquered.
Sure.
It's you view things differently. It's I'll just do it. But I would definitely, if we were then, and just knowing my personality, if we were still at that age and trying to, which we've talked about, like how it would be fun to be able to start the band over when we were all 19 and see, kind of how this would have gone, if it would have gone differently. But it's wild with so many people out there. I would feel incredible pressure to there's just no way we're going to get noticed because there's 17,000 bands an hour putting stuff out. I don't know.
oh, and Mike, you toured. So, I mean, is that something that the Astronautics would ever tour, or is that something where with the family life it's just kind of a no-go?
I would love to.
Yeah.
And
it wouldn't be anything lengthy. I think it would be a 2 weeks tops, a week stint or 2 week on the road. But
because before my daughter was born, the heaviest year that I did with Danon, we did 250 shows that year. So we were gone a lot. And I just can't do that anymore. And I don't even know. I love touring and I do miss the road, but I don't even think I would want to be away from my wife and daughter for that long, But it would be a blast to string up like a week or 2 of shows because that would be possible, feasible.
I think that's the only thing we're looking for out of this as a band, because we talk about it a lot. Like it would be killer to do a week or 2 on the road with other bands that we respect, not just any tour, right? But we're not trying to get rich or get famous. It's really just about playing the music.
Yeah.
Are there any bands from the area that you guys really like? Any local bands?
I feel like I'm so out of touch with the local scene.
Sounds like you have to listen to more CZR.
I do. You know that. Because I text and call in sometimes. But
there was a band, I just learned that they've called it quits, but there was a band based out of Milwaukee called Whips that I really loved. They were absolutely fantastic, and got to know their guitarist a little bit, and had thought like, oh man, it would be so sweet to do a show with Whips if we could open for Whips or have them up here to do something. And then I learned that they're not doing it anymore because they started families, and so they're doing the family thing.
I mean, if there's all kinds of good bands. It's hard for us because our sound is so different than I think what Appleton is used to. Because you've got I really love the Red Hawks and their sound. Freddie and Tate and those guys, they put out a listenable sound to me. So I like them a lot. But playing a show with them, I think would just be, it's so different stylistically that I don't know how that bill fits, right? We're pretty cognizant about making sure our sound fits with the other bands so that you don't have a crowd for one band and then they scoot for the other ones because A, they don't know them, or B, they don't know the sound.
Right.
And so we try and fit that together when we play, finding bands, typically drawing from either Milwaukee or Madison. These last round of bands we played with in August, they were so much fun to play with because they're, emo, what would you call it? Like metalcore?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Screamo stuff.
You guys played with like Trash Pandas, Smoke Free Home.
Those guys played Thursday night. We played.
You did the double bill on the Friday the day after.
On Friday, and we played with.
You still curated the whole thing, though, right?
Yeah, we did. Yes, there were a number of bands that reached out to Corbin when he posted it, and then I put it all together, being that I set up the sound and we had our light rig there, and it was just easier.
So instead of which bands do you like, it's probably easier to say where would you, if you're not playing the Ambassador, where do you want to play? Or is there a venue? There's got to be some venues in Appleton you want to.
The Resch Center. Yeah, man, I don't know.
I ran sound the first 5 years of my own music. I ran sound at Chadwick's. It's a bigger space, but it's a similar type space where you've got taller ceilings and a longer building, but you can get more people into Chadwick's. I really love that venue, and I figured out as a sound person how to make that space work.
But that
Our
would be
first show ever was at Mill Creek, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Well, was it Bent Keg at that point?
Oh yeah, Bent. Yeah.
Yeah. But Mill
that's a nice place to play.
Yeah, that was great.
It is, yeah.
That was really great.
Yeah, it was fine. I wasn't pumped about the sound afterwards. We heard what it sounded like on a recording, and I was like, oh no. But for us on stage, it felt good.
It was great.
Recordings are kind of, depending on how it's recorded or
Yeah.
where they're standing, it can make a big difference. And but there's so many great venues, like Appleton Beer Factory has really stepped up their live music game.
For sure.
You've got Gibson Music Hall is still doing stuff more acoustic, but they once in a while have bands. But I don't know.
There's those. Have you been in that new, the one down by the river, by the River Heath stuff?
Totally forgot about that place. No,
That one would be fun, but it's huge. That's got to hold 800-900 people. So you would have to set up like a whole weekend thing there for that to be worth it. Obviously, we're not going to fill that place.
Right.
But if you have enough good bands from around the state, you might be able to fill that pretty easily.
You don't want to be in a huge room and be like, "We'd like to thank all 5 of you for coming out tonight."
Or feel like there's 100 people there and it feels like there's 5 people.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the hardest song on the album to record? What was the easiest?
Fight was completely written when we started recording. So I
Fight
think
just sort of happened.
that was the easy one.
Yeah. In terms of the most challenging one to record, there were a couple songs when I was tracking this record, I was going through a really hard season of life, and this record kind of carried me through that. And so there were. You may have meant the question in terms of, challenging like logistically or whatever, but there were a lot of songs that were kind of challenging emotionally for me to sing or to get out, just because it was, me screaming my insecurities into the microphone, and it was really cathartic to put a lot of these tunes together. One of the songs that actually our drummer wrote is called "For Now," which a lot of people have really enjoyed, there's a lot of lyrics about that came out of challenging seasons of life, and there were even parts of tracking the record where I would be singing a harmony to Justin, and we would get into the booth afterwards, and he would say, "Well, what did you sing there?" And I was singing different. I had heard the lyrics like differently, and I was singing different lyrics to what he had written, and we kept it because the song meant something different
to both of us. Yeah. It's a very emotional process for us, and I think a lot of bands, right? You're putting out either experiences or the type of emotion you're feeling at the time. And that record, for both Mike and I think Matt too, we were all just going through these like weird times in friendships with people or marriages or just changes in life. That it was kind of the suture that held it together for a minute, and that's why that record is so important to us. Now, I'm excited for this new one because there's not a lot of emotional pressure on this one.
Yeah,
and we've been taking time. I'm so excited for this new record.
How much stuff do you have written for the new album?
I think we've got like 6 or 7 starts now.
Yep. We've got 4 that are almost fully formed.
Yep.
And then 3 or 4 more that are getting there.
Yeah, and they're coming together nicely. Like we said earlier, we're not able. We would love, the dream is to be like, all right, we got the starts, we got the songs. We are going to do nothing else for 3 weeks. We're just going to hit the studio and just crank this out. But that's just not our life right now.
It'll happen.
I'd like that. I would certainly like that. But so slow and steady. But it will not be another 5 years before the next album comes out.
Also, I think the new sound is a little more adult. the last record was a ton of fun to make and kind of one of those dream records that as a kid, you listen to these bands like Blink and Green Day and Jimmy Eat World and these bands that you look up to, and you want to make records like those. And that was We Came in Peace for Mankind, for me at least.
17-year-old me would have loved that record.
Yes, absolutely. But now we're making like stuff that, I'm proud now to say this, we did that thing. That was so much fun. But now let's see what we have. Because now we're in like a more of a tighter writing groove. Because that was the formation of the band. And now we're kind of moving into like, what does this band actually do?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I look forward to what is coming up for you guys. In fact, what's coming up after the commercial break, you guys are going to be playing a couple songs live. So you're going to want to stick around. We've got Justin and Mike from the Astronautics coming to you live.
Don't wait on by for the stereotypes that keep on casting down. There's no hashtags, radio hype to keep me out at bay. It's not your fault, it was an inside job. The wheels keep turning and turning without you. Yet you're never asking why. Count me down, you count me out. The world keeps turning and turning without you. You don't need to ask me why. No matter what they say, they'll get to you somehow. You can't win this fight. No matter what you do, the system's rigged to come now. It's not your fault, it was an inside job. The wheels keep turning and turning without you. Yet you're never asking why. Count me down, you count me out. The world keeps turning and turning without you. You don't need to ask me why. It's not your fault, inside job. The wheels keep turning and turning without you. Yet you're never asking why. Count me down, you count me out. The world keeps turning and turning without you. You don't need to ask me why. That was Fight.
Yeah. This is Be Still.
Wake up with no makeup on. Your hair's a mess, cause you slept real long. You can't see, cause the sun's still